I am really excited, like stupid excited. Like I am more excited than I was before launching Arabella, because this dream that we are going to go tackle this summer predates Arabella. Like building Arabella and that whole 7-year journey that I went through was basically to make this summer happen. And I know that seems insane, but that's how it went down. And I think we have enough plans and things are figured out enough that I am comfortable telling you all what the plan for the summer is, because we have a history of making plans and then the world going, but we'll see. Knock on wood, fingers crossed. Decades ago, I was looking through a climbing magazine, Rock and Ice, one of those I forget. And there was an article about these guys going to Newfoundland to this cliff called Blow Me Down that just drops right into the ocean, and putting up this route called Lucifer's Lighthouse. It's this 12C, just unbelievably beautiful, incredible line. I remember looking at those pictures and reading that article and going, oh my God, I would love to do something like that someday. Like how cool would that be? And I would call Lucifer's Lighthouse kind of a king line. So when you go to a cliff, some cliffs have them, some cliffs don't, but you find this just beautiful, beautiful line that climbs very nicely, that is aesthetically beautiful, and it's what climbers would call a king line. It's just mwah, chef's kiss. Authoring a king line, being the first ascensionist of a king line, is something that a lot of climbers dream about, myself included. And finding one of those lines, developing one of those lines, is only getting harder and harder as climbing becomes more popular. And once a line is done, it has a first ascensionist, and you're just repeating. So going out and finding these places that have these just unbelievable king lines and plucking one of those gems while it's still available to be plucked is something that a lot of climbers dream about. Very few climbers ever have the opportunity to do. And this summer we have the opportunity to go potentially develop some first ascents and possibly some king lines. When we were planning to come to Newfoundland, this is all there was. But thankfully, some guys upgraded it, and this came out 2025, and Robin and I picked up a new copy as soon as we got here. And they expanded so much information on the South Coast. And then I found the Newdic, I'm not quite sure how they say it, but it had me at, this is probably the most inaccessible crag in the book. You know how to get me to go somewhere? Tell me it's the most inaccessible. So
I can vouch for that.
So this is the main face of the Newdic, and this is the one line that's been established. So this line kind of goes up the center of that photo. None of this cliff over here has been explored. So the first ascent of Where's Waldo is what they called it. It was done by, I think it's Ian Dorco and Jay Enrico. And they hiked in from Devil's Bay, did the one climb, and left. It really looks amazing. So I've been digging deep into the info and the Newdic and the logistics and what this really looks like. But if you were to come here without your own boat, you would make your way to Burgeo, which is the last place you can drive to. And you would get on the ferry and you would take it down to Francois, I'm not quite sure how you would say it. Then you would find a local there and you would pay them money to take you and drop you off at Devil Bay. Then there's a couple places to camp by Blow Me Down. It's the most developed, it's the biggest, baddest wall in the area, it's where people usually want to go. So that's where you get dropped off. Now they're saying the Newdic is really tough to get to because they are assuming that you're going to get dropped off in Devil's Bay and then you're going to do what Ian and company did, and you're going to hike 5 or 6 or 7 hours all the way back to the Newdic from your campsite at the base of the Devil's Bay and Blow Me Down. Now what interests me is to the east a little bit, you have Hare Bay, and if you come up Hare Bay, you get into Dolland Bight, and Dolland Bight is significantly closer to the Newdic. So that makes your trek to and from the cliff way shorter and makes it much more accessible. So the next real question was, can we safely leave the boat in Northwest Arm or Dahlend Bight and be able to access the cliff? And that was a big question mark. The cruising guide, when you look up Devil Bay, it says technical climbers looking for an unusual challenge have come to Devil Bay to conquer the blow me down cliff face, not something for ordinary folk. If we climb it, we won't be ordinary folk.
I think we already checked that box, or don't check that box.
All right, so just down from Devil Bay is Hare Bay, Morgan Arm, and in here they call it Dollard Bight, but in the climbing book they call it Dahlend Bight, so I'm not sure which is correct. So we would head up Hare Bay, and then where we would want to be is in the bight over here at Sandy Point. And according to the cruising guide, Sandy Point has been described as, quote, the best anchorage on the southern side of Newfoundland. So approximately 2 miles from an unexplored cliff with incredible potential is possibly the best anchorage on the south coast. One of the challenges if we climb at Devil's Bay and Blow Me Down is we have to anchor the boat in the back of the fjord, and the cliff is in the very entrance of the fjord. So we would be looking at a couple mile tender ride in Victoria through some fairly open water to get to the cliff, or a couple miles hiking. So in a lot of ways, taking the boat to the Nudik is even better. The guidebook makes the cliff look amazing. The cruising guide makes the anchorage near the cliff look amazing. So the last piece of the puzzle was to reach out for local knowledge. And there's a Facebook group called Climbing Newfoundland, and I joined that and posted and talked about our plans to go to Hare Bay and head into the Nudik, and did anybody have any experience? Had anybody been there? And I got a ton of really awesome, knowledgeable info from folks who have climbed in the area and who have been to the cliff. One local even sent us a satellite image with a rough line about how they thought we should hike in for the best access. A couple climbers had mentioned that they had been there and looked at it, and it looked incredible. And this guy, Joe, who developed a lot of the climbing in the area and did a lot of the first ascents on Blow Me Down, said, in his opinion, that it was one of, if not possibly the best unexplored cliff on the south coast of Newfoundland. So when you're looking at all of the granite that is yet to be explored on the south coast and all of its potential, and Joe, who has spent decades mucking around in these places trying to find these walls. They even hired a bush pilot to fly them along the coast so they could see things from the air. So for everyone to say that this is a real gem and it's just tough to get to and nobody's taken the time to get there, we have the ability to get there. We have the time that we can spend there. If we get 2 weeks of crap weather and it rains, it doesn't matter. We'll hop in Arabella, we'll go explore the abandoned towns, we'll head into Francais, we'll hop the ferry over to Burgeo. All of our options are options, since we can come and go as we please on the boat. So the plan is to go there, develop that crag for the summer, and this to me is like, this is why I built Arabella. This is what she's for. This is what I dreamed of doing, and I've never been more excited. Before we can make our way to the south coast, we need the weather to warm up a little bit, and I have so many boat projects to finish. So as you can see, I'm in the midst of closing in the Dodger here a bit. So there's some work there. We'll get to that in a video in a little bit. I've ordered up a winch to go here for the main sheet. We've been running it back to the belaying pins on the mizzen, and it's less than ideal, and having that on a winch would be really nice. So I gotta get a winch mounted here. It's ordered. We're gonna pick it up when we're in Massachusetts in the next few weeks, switching our gear out. I got a bunch of little strips of marine grade plywood here, and when the weather warms up a little bit more, these are gonna get installed and mounted and painted here, because what happens is it rains, it pools up on the solar panels, and when the boat pitches and rolls, all of that just comes pouring down and lands on you in the cockpit. So we're gonna install a bit of a drip edge around the perimeter in the back here, so that that water heads forward and away from the cockpit instead of coming down and raining on us. I got a few more little sewing projects to do. We're gonna do a stern wrap around the boat with some bags to hold line storage. I've been working on kind of figuring out what that looks like, and our shrink wrap cover here is worked pretty well for me to draw on and kind of work out some ideas using it as a in-place sketch pad. Also going to work on some storage. This is one of Victoria's spars here. We've been tripping over them. We haven't had a great place to put them. So I've got some ideas with incorporating that into a little bit of a lee cloth here, and then having some bags for the jib sheet, the preventers, the staysail, and the running backstay. So all of those can come down to their assorted cleats and then just come right up and get tucked in their bag. And that should make line organization and tangles and all of that kind of stuff much less of a thing. And one of the really big upgrades that I would love to put on the boat before we do any real long distance again is a self-steering rig for the stern. So that steers the boat in relation to the wind. It doesn't require any batteries. It doesn't require a motor. And between that and the autopilot, that would give Robin and I 2 different ways to have Arabella self-steering without us having to be at the tiller, which makes big passages, just the 2 of us, a lot more reasonable. So before we do anything real big, which we're starting to make plans for, we'd really love to get that upgrade. Otherwise, it's a ton of small stuff this spring, getting ready, a lot of line management and just taking what we've learned over the last 5,000–6,000 miles and getting set up for the next season. Obviously, all of this stuff and hauling and everything costs money. The self-steering rig is not inexpensive. So we are doing a bonfire t-shirt campaign to hopefully raise some funds for that. And this is the design. So this was inspired by a bunch of ideas that folks sent in. Robin kind of worked her magic on it. And it is, I remember when she was trees. And pretty much exactly 10 years ago, Arabella was nothing but trees in the woods. And I was cutting them down and piling them up. And it's also Akiva's birth month, so he turns 15. And so to celebrate the new season, rally some funds, this was our design. So you can get them in t-shirts, you can get them in sweatshirts, and they are available until the 20th, and that's when they'll get printed and shipped to everyone. Thank you very much for all the support. Can't wait for this next season. This video is an update about what the plans are for the summer, what that looks like. And then next week will be the classic A to A work video. So we do a ton of sewing, a bunch of upgrades on Arabella, and that is just going to be a boat work extravaganza. So stay tuned for that.